For that midline deadline deal, the budget deadline, we had a deal finally struck between the House and the Senate, getting to Governor Rauner's desk. They talked about it for the past 12 months, 366 days it took. And finally, Jordan, we have a stopgap budget plan. Let's explain some of the details here, because some things go for the next 6 months, others going for 12.
So really the stopgap budget, as we're calling it, gets us through the end of this year. So it'll go through the end of December. More importantly, it gets us past that election in November. But school funding is a full year. So we'll go the full fiscal year, and schools will get a record amount of money in these recent years. They're getting a lot more money than they usually get. So some people are saying that that's the biggest success of this deal.
We're hearing a lot of people on both sides of the aisle saying, yes, it's good we got this much done, but there's still a whole lot more to go. Again, this is not a full funding deal for 2017, but at least education is done. Really, it was a sense of relief from everybody throughout the building today, as they were just happy to get something accomplished. Not much excitement, but saying, hey, at least we came together on something. Let's listen to House Minority Leader Jim Durkin here on the floor today, after all the votes were tallied up in his chamber, talking about what it would be like if they hadn't gotten something done.
Leave this building today without having some sense of accomplishment with respect to fundamental vital services that we owe to citizens in Illinois would be atrocious. It would be unacceptable. And the public revolt would be one which we have never witnessed before. So I think I feel confident, I feel good where we're at today.
Well,
tongue in cheek, or did he mean it?
Does anything happen in the State House without drama?
Absolutely. Atrocious, the key word there, of course. If they hadn't got something done, he was talking about that public revolt. Really, it would have come from his own members, I believe. Republicans and Democrats fed up with each other, ready to get something done.
Nobody wanted to go into that election without a budget, because really, at this point, people on both sides of the aisle are getting the blame.
That's right. This wasn't without drama today, because as we thought yesterday, after 8 hours of leaders meeting behind closed doors, perhaps it'd be rubber stamped today. Not the case. A little bit of drama as Democrats bring a last-minute amendment here. It was only $10 million or less, Jordan, but explain why it threw a wrench into the system today.
So we saw an early morning caucus, and we thought after that, after they went to these private party meetings, they'd come to the floor, take the vote, and it would be all done. Party leaders said this is going to be the deal. But what happened is Democrats had put an amendment on the bill that included a little bit of spending that the Legislative Black Caucus had wanted. They said, hey, we feel like some of these minority programs were left out of the stopgap plan, because once again, it's a partial plan. It's not a full budget. And so they wanted a little bit more money. $10 million in terms of what the state spends every year and in the budget is actually a small amount. But Republicans didn't like the process. It was slapped together fairly quickly. They were not notified. They took an hour-long caucus, and then some drama ensued on the floor, because despite that caucus, Democrats pulled that amendment from the bill, and the Legislative Black Caucus was not happy about it, because that means their programs that they're advocating for didn't get the chance to get a vote.
House Representative, Willie Davis on the floor now with what he thought the issue was. He did not think it was about funding. Take a listen.
I thought that was a little odd that we would hear that applause. As a matter of fact, I think when I made that statement, I think Leader Durkin just nodded yes. Did you nodded yes? So I understand that maybe you don't care about minority communities as much as I do. I get that. I get that. I get that. I get that. Well, then you should not have applauded when such an amendment was taken out of the record.
But then, Legislative Black Caucus putting the votes on the board and voting for the stopgap budget, because at the end of the day, something is definitely better than nothing.
Only 4 people voted against it in the House when all was said and done. I spoke with Representative Davis afterwards. He said he was making a statement. The Black Caucus needed to make a statement about their priorities and what was important to them. Listen to him talk about what that debate was really about.
Believe me, the next time when we talk about creating a deal or crafting a deal, there will be a lot of particular attention paid to those items, not just the higher ed items, but those items overall that are important to the African American caucus.
And so when all is said and done, we have a budget bill on Governor Rauner's desk ready to be signed well before the midnight deadline today. No suspension of funding. We do have K through 12 funded for an entire year. Now we talk about the fallout. Political implications here are going to be very important on both sides, especially as we're 5 months away from an election.
Yeah, we saw Speaker Madigan come to the floor and give a speech after the vote. It was a written speech. He read from a piece of paper, but he reiterated arguments that we had been hearing throughout this entire year-long budget budget impasse. That when the governor takes his harmful turnaround agenda off the table, we can get a deal done. It's very easy for us to compromise. We've been doing this for years. And so listen to Speaker Madigan and what he had to say on the House floor today.
We have seen with previous successful budget efforts that we can come together. We can achieve compromise. We can pass a budget when the governor's demands relative to his personal agenda that hurts families are dropped. That happened here today.
That's going to be the Speaker's message, that when you stop your turnaround agenda, when you take it off the table, we can move on with the regular lawmaking process. That's probably going to be a message we hear a lot in the upcoming election. But Rauner doesn't seem like he's backing off.
No, it was interesting to see the difference between the two top leaders in each party, Speaker Madigan and Governor Rauner. The rank and file, or those leaders below that level, saying compromise was key and they were happy to get something done. But when it came down to it, Governor Rauner and Speaker Madigan holding firm to really the differences that have gotten us this far in the budget impasse. Even though they did come to agreement today in principle and on paper, they did stick tight to their guns. This is Governor Rauner in a press conference after announcing the deal, saying, yeah, he's going to keep holding on to his turnaround agenda.
Reforms are essential, and our efforts to get significant reforms for the people of Illinois will never cease. I'm cautiously optimistic that we, in November, December, January, will see meaningful reforms.
So now we have veto session. That doesn't occur until November after that election. Lawmakers now on a break, and in between now and the end of the year, they'll have to come up with a new budget. State pension reform was also part of this budget deal. That'll have to be done before January. So while they're not going to be here, there is a lot of work left to do.
Lawmakers saying it's time to get back to work tomorrow, Monday, Tuesday, whatever it takes to keep this momentum going, because they don't want to take too much time off and revert back to those old political ways. Again, that coming from a lot of rank and file members. A lot of the frustration we've heard.
Those rank and file members were key to getting this deal done.
Absolutely. A lot of pressure coming from below to urge those leaders to get something done. Of course, we will be here covering it tonight at 10 o'clock. A whole lot to get ready for as we get ready for veto session and an all-important election in November. But for now, the big news, Illinois has a stopgap budget and full funding for education for a year. At the State House, for State House reporter Jordan Abadea, I'm Adam Reif. Back to you.
Thank you, Jordan and Adam. We will continue to bring you coverage on the state budget compromise tonight on News Channel 20 at 10 and on our sister station, Fox News at